Base is dropped on SDH AM, and I got to turn on. Oh, I got to turn on our light board. Okay, so SDH AM is up and running. Tuesday Thoughts, stacked show, and can't thank all of you enough for being a part of it every single day. Oh crap! I know I forgot to do something. Hang on, I forgot to even promote the stinking show. All right, that was really good on my part. Didn't even let everybody know what was going on. So I think that's what we're going to end up doing here for the early part. So, so this will be opening kickoff. John actually promoting the show. SDH AM is live. Actually, let's do that in all caps. All right. So 9:30 as we have opening kickoff here, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. We start your day with the most important stories in the game and the right way to start your morning. And with Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com, they're part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy bodied, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. All right, so here's the rundown for the morning as I type it geez, it's like, you're sitting there and it's like, okay, I knew I forgot to do something. And so it's going to be like this today. I have that feeling. And so coming up bottom of the hour, it is Dave Leno, our friend up in Philly. We're going to talk Philadelphia Union, and we're going to talk about the season, and we're going to talk about everything else that's happened so far. Like coming out of 25, since this is the first time that we've had the chance to catch up with Dave this year. So we're going to go into all of that with Dave coming up here, bottom of the hour. 10 o'clock, it is our normal visit with Kacey D and Kacey White. Kacey, by the way, was at Atlanta and San Jose. So we're going to get her thoughts. She was color for that for Apple TV. So for those of you that were syncing up your broadcast and not listening to Christian Miles and Kacey White, we'll get Kacey's perspective on Atlanta and San Jose. And we will break everything down from that perspective and anything else that has been going on in her brain when it comes to MLS in week 2. And we'll kind of preview a little bit into week 3. 10:30, very, very cool that MLS NEXT Pro president Ali Curtis and MLS EVP Ali Curtis, same person, going to be joining us at 10:30 with the beginning of the MLS NEXT Pro season. And so that'll be the rundown for today. And President Ali Curtis joins on the 2026 schedule. It's just literally, it was just one of those things. It's like, I knew I forgot to do something. And so, of course, what was it? Promote the Prinkid Show. So if I could spell schedule. All right. So all at SDH, YouTube, X, Twitch, and SDH social media channels. If I could spell channels, geez, 2 L's. You're doing Chanel's all of a sudden. Okay, so that is the rundown for today. Okay, real opening kickoff is this. I don't know how many of you, morning Derek, morning David. I don't know how many of you have to take morning supplements, medications, things like that. But for the longest time, and I mean, this goes back literally like 700 years when I was a kid, I have never been able to swallow pills and medications and things. No matter how much liquid is there, I have never been able to do it to this day. And it always seems like the stuff that I have to take in the morning is the most sour tasting stuff ever. And so literally that is, you're sitting there and it's like, I could be 900 years old and still have issues taking pills. Doesn't matter what the liquid is that I chase it with. I always end up missing something. And you know how like when you take a medication and it's sour and you chase it with liquid, then it always ends up getting stuck in a corner of your mouth and you can't wedge it out. And then you have to take like 2 or 3 different sips of 2 or 3 different things to try to unwedge the medication. It's stuck in like some low corner of your mouth. And it's out of control. And so literally, I didn't know if I was alone in this or not. I didn't know if I was alone in the idea of no matter how hard you try, you just can never really get pills or medications taken on the first run. It always ends up getting stuck. You always end up with that aftertaste. You always want it to end up disintegrating, and it just tastes nasty, and you're kind of stuck with it, and you're having to like pound 19 different, 19 different pieces of liquid to try to get that medication down in the morning. I mean, it's like, when we were growing up, if you had like Flintstones vitamins or anything, Flintstones vitamins actually didn't taste all that badly. So if you messed up, you still could chase it and you were fine. But as you get older, for some reason, the medications get to be tasting more and more yucky. I'll use that word. I was about to use a different word to start off the show. But I still, for the life of me, cannot get the nasty tasting medicines to go down the first time, and it always ends up getting stuck in the corner of my mouth, and it takes like 19 minutes to try to get these medications that taste like crap out of my mouth and then on with the day, because it always leaves that aftertaste, and it's always there, and it's just, I didn't know if I was alone in this or not. So that was kind of what I was getting into this morning with as Derek says, the struggle is real. He's not kidding, but I didn't know if I was alone in this when it came to taking medication, where it always ends up being the nastiest medication that you taste, always gets stuck in the corner of your mouth. It might just be me. I don't know. I mean, if you were to literally ask Maddie or Nick or Jason or Jarrett, they would say that it's me and that I have done something to offend the medicine gods. And no matter how long it's going to take, I always have this issue. Abby answering the question. She's never had the problem her husband has, especially horse pills. Yeah, horse pills for me. Well, and horse pills for me, mercifully, I've kind of been able to twist that away to where it is something that is, it's more coded, so I don't have to worry about it. And so that's kind of what, like the big horse pills, those are coded for me, so I don't have to worry about it. It's always the smallest ones that ends up getting stuck, and they taste the worst. So that was, I did not know. Derek, like Atlanta United, trying to put the ball in the back of the net. It's always a challenge. Yes, it is always a challenge for me to have medication, and in 2026, it has been a challenge for Atlanta United to put the ball in the back of the net so far. And like I said, we'll get into that with KCD when she comes up at 10 o'clock. Like I said, she and Christian Miles had the call. Yeah, Falcons playing at the Bernabeu. Yikes. Watch your budgets. So you end up with that's a trip. That legitimately is a trip. If you ever wanted to go see the Falcons, go see them at the Bernabeu. But yeah, so I didn't know if I was alone in this, and so in some parts of it, apparently I am. But it's always the smaller pills that I have problems with because they taste the worst, and the bigger pills, because they're coated, I don't have that problem. So that was, like I said, that was me this morning, and it's really every morning, but this morning more than others because literally it's the smallest pill that has the worst taste of all of it. And I didn't know if I was alone. Anyway, all right, so that's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Start your day with the most important stories of the day in the game and the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy-bodied, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Okay, a couple things before Dave Leno joins us, bottom of the hour. And it was, and this is odds and ends. I don't know if you saw this or not, but the U20 tournament, and we are tracking down Isaiah Vicente, who is very, very busy on his U20 duties. But I don't know if you saw this, and it was a fight that broke out between Anguilla and Guyana in the U20s. And it was literally, it was a 5-0 lead for Anguilla in the 87th minute. And so they just decided to, let all hell break loose. And it just started into a fight, and it just degraded from that point on. It was a bad scene over the weekend. And both teams got booted out of the tournament. I mean, literally, you had one team that was winning, and it was in control, and everything was there. But you end up with a fight in the 87th minute. And the disciplinary committee over the weekend, yesterday, sanctions on the men's U20 teams of Anguilla and Guyana and several of their players. Reviewing the evidence and documentation gathered during the investigation in accordance with the applicable disciplinary code, committee declared the match a forfeit in favor of Guyana. Decision taken after Anguilla received 5 red cards, leaving the team with fewer players than the minimum required under laws of the game to continue the match. 5-0 score in favor of Guyana stands. So, furthermore, the committees disqualified both teams from the competition, with their remaining matches to be recorded as 3-0 forfeits in favor of their respective opponents, imposed undisclosed fines, and issued 4-match suspensions to 5 players from Anguilla, 4 players from Guyana. They have to serve their 4-match suspensions during the following official matches of their representative teams in the same age group. So basically, they can't just represent their national teams. It's got to be U20 matches where it counts. And then I wonder what happens when they're no longer U20, but cannot be served in this where the suspension cannot be served in the same age group. I get my question answered. Carried over the next highest age category in a CONCACAF or FIFA competition. So you've got 2 teams that got booted for a fight in the 87th minute. So round 1 wrapping up through tomorrow, and neither Anguilla nor Guyana will be a part of it. In Texas, I don't know if you saw this or not, but traditionally, you know how we'll keep an eye on things in the business. It was disclosed that once again, the Houston Dash are up for sale. And it will be interesting to see what happens here. Eben Novy-Williams, once again, we probably should track him down. Owners of the Dash relaunching the formal process to sell the team after trying last year to finalize an agreement with a group tied to a disappeared Chinese billionaire. Ted Siegel, who owns both the Dash and the Dynamo, was in advanced talks last year to sell the NWSL club to RHC Partners for about $120 million. Those talks ended amid pushback from the league's central office. And my guess is about whether or not RHC actually existed and had the funds to do it. So RHC last year was chasing after the Dash, RHC Partners. And let's see, if you look at RHC Capital, I don't think that's RHC Partners. So RHC Partners, if you go on LinkedIn, really isn't a whole lot that's attached. And if it is, in fact, this particular RHC, Business Consulting and Services, Sydney, co-investments, corporate and funding strategies for various organizations. So Ted Siegel has put the Dash up for sale. And we are efforting a visit from our friend Glenn Davis to find out how this is going, how things are going, period. And so RHC and the provenance of the money would ultimately pass the approval process, according to multiple sources. Dash sale process centered for months on the RHC talks, now focusing elsewhere, said 2 of the sources, who are granted anonymity. Representatives for the NWSL and RHC declined to comment. Rep for the team didn't immediately respond, seeking comment. RHC may have been willing to pay more than others interested in the team last year. The relaunched Dash sale has the benefit of another data point in commercial growth of the league. Once again, when Team 17 came online, Arthur Blank agreed to pay the $165 million expansion fee for an NWSL team. And so you have a rolling process of evaluating new expansion options, likely at fees even higher than that. Columbus, Ohio, and the Haslams are one of those. The Dash are not currently among the league's most valuable clubs. Team was worth $74 million when Sportico last published their valuations back in September 24, ranking 10th of 14. Revenue in 24 at $7.6 million, average attendance just over 6,000. 23 revenue at $5 million. And so RHC was founded by Richard Tsao, who is the American-born son of Chinese billionaire Xiao Zhanhua. Xiao reportedly built his fortune in business with Communist Party leaders and is currently in prison, according to our friends at Yahoo, following a high-profile abduction by Chinese agents and subsequent disappearance. Though Xiao's family office has grown its Western holdings during his time in jail, RHC was funded via money from the independent wealth of Xiao's mother, Zhao Hongwen, according to Sportico. Zhao is also the founder of J17 Capital, a venture fund that similarly traces its funding to Zhao's family, according to Bloomberg. Separating NWSL clubs from joint ownership also carries challenges underway in Portland. Remember when the Batal family bought the Thorns from Merritt Paulson, and there's obviously staffing that applies to both in the Dash and Dynamo setup. Siegel bought the Dash and the Dynamo back in 21 for about $400 million. Yahoo reports that the team was near a near zero part of the financials. League valuations and commercial opportunities have grown. Average team was worth $105 million in 2024. And there has been a lot of ownership turnover. Siegel is now one of the longest tenured owners in the league, even if he only purchased the club 5 years ago. So the Dash are up for sale. And keep an eye out on that. Also, we have all of the other elements that we've been keeping an eye on. And we got activity today. We probably will get into what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Yeah, Derek had 5 Reds. Well, it was 5 Reds on one team. It was 9 total. You end up with 9 total, 5 on one team. And this is just something to keep your eye on. You remember our friends at Macclesfield who had the run in the FA Cup? And this is very, very early this morning. Macclesfield's ground was targeted, and this is from our friends at The Guardian. Macclesfield's ground was targeted in a suspected arson attempt. Locals have been told to keep their windows shut. Emergency services had responded after the fire. Macclesfield have claimed someone tried to burn down their stadium Monday night. The, quote, suspected arson attempt on leasing.com stadium took place overnight, no casualties. Macclesfield came out with a statement. Emergency services responded immediately, and they were on site tackling the blaze. Urged anyone nearby to keep their windows shut and not to approach the stadium. The stadium dates back to 1891. Managed by Wayne Rooney's younger brother, John. Well, keep an eye on this story, too. So Macclesfield's ground dating back to 1891 was, as the club says, subject to a suspected arson attempt. And so definitely keeping an eye out on that, too, going forward this morning. But before we get into Dave, and Dave Leno joining us bottom of the hour to break down everything going on in Philly and in the activities in the Eastern Conference. Apparently, Abby picked up the wrong order. Chick-fil-A out running errands, where shopping was a pleasure, emptied the groceries, sat down to eat breakfast, in the wrong order. That's not good. That's no bueno. Yeah, Derek is in. Derek may hate the purple team, but he's not going to burn down Inter & Co. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Handed you the wrong sandwich. That's not a good way to start the day. Let's get back into the finals from this past week in Major League Soccer. And before we're done, we will have a couple of minutes as we worship at the church of our friend Adrian Garcia Marquez. And we will be in the pews for our weekly dose of AGM, injected into our veins, discussing everything going on with the Chrome y Azul and the Murph Dragon. So we will have our time to go to church before we get out of here today. Quick reminder, it is 5:30 and 7:30 tonight, where it is Jefferson and Johnson Gainesville. Tuesday night soccer on the SDH network. Drew Dickinson and I will be back up at the Dungeon for that breakdown. 5:30 is the girls, 7:30 is the boys. It'll be great to catch up with Molly McCarty and everyone from the Jefferson side. And obviously it's great when our friend Frank Zamora and Coach Higgins roll out the carpet for us when we get to go visit. So 5:30, 7:30, Jefferson at Johnson Gainesville tonight on the network. Go to soccerdownhere.net, hit the listen tab. And when we have something live going on, A, set your notifications for it. B, you'll see this red note that says live. That's the channel that's up and running. Like in Creek Cup, we had SDH 1 and 2 running. Mornings like this, we have the third channel, which is the broadcast channel, up and running as well. So you'll see like a red live note in the upper right-hand corner of SDH 1 tonight, about 5:25. Drew and I will have that stuff for you there. All right, so now, last week, as we kind of take our look back at Major League Soccer, quickly before Dave Leno joins us, It was Red Bulls over the Revs 1-0. Fire over CF Montreal even after going down a man. The little ball of hate, Johnny Dean from Stratford Academy, and Mercer and Macon, Georgia, and from Mercer University and the Birmingham Legion. He gets a red, and you end up with 10-man Chicago scoring 2 more after that. Minnesota United 1-0 in the frozen tundra of Allianz. They did not play Hamas. Colorado 2-0 over Portland. San Jose and Atlanta, we talked about it yesterday. And KCD, who was on the call for that one, she'll come back and talk about it more and give her perspective on it. RSL over Seattle. RSL's coming to town. And the Youngins were in charge at RSL. Sporting and Crew was a 2-2 draw. Sporting had a lead. Columbus came back. Columbus thought they had the win, and it was called back. So we'll get into that with Chris Doran, who's going to be joining us Thursday morning at 9:05. LAFC put 2 on Houston at Hell in a Shell at a -110. Red card there with Antonio Carlos, one of the more intriguing Reds of the weekend. FC Dallas and Nashville, goalless draw there. Vancouver shuts out Toronto 3-0. Josh Sargent, I believe, if my math is correct, is being introduced later today in Toronto at the post office. Not at BMO, but indoors, maybe on the ice at Scotiabank Center, the old post office underneath Skydome. And LA over Charlotte by the score of 3-0. Teams going west, man. Teams going west out of the Eastern Conference and having to show up on the left coast. That always ends up being a bit of a whooping. And Charlotte got theirs with LAG. Joao Klaus with 2 goals in short succession. Austin over DC United 1-0. After this week, we'll catch up with our friend Dave Johnson and find out what's going on with DC United and Ty Barabo. NYC and Philadelphia. We're going to talk about that one here in a sec. Messi and friends down 2-0. Everybody was sitting there on the 280 character app going, oh, I don't know. I don't know about these old guys. Yeah, then they put 4 on the purple team. 1-4-2. And then once again, before we get out of here, once again, we will be sitting and singing the hymnals from the church of our friend AGM as San Diego FC beat All Caps 2-0. So, as we are wont to do, we have our oracles. We have our guests. We have our oracles. We have those folks that we focus on when we need to find out what in the wide world of sports is going on in certain places. And for this, we got to go to Philly. We'll find out what's going on with Dave Leno and see if he's actually recovered from calling track and field. Have you recovered from calling track and field?
Oh, that was a lot of fun, John. Good morning to you and all of your viewers and listeners. It's a pleasure to be with you. And yeah, I have a lack of sleep. I will admit candidly, studying up on 18 schools, hundreds of athletes, talking with a lot of, my colleagues and staff from the ACC. I do a lot of different sports, soccer, US Open tennis. I've done college basketball, football, swimming and diving, softball, lacrosse. I can keep going on and on. And I will tell you, track and field is very niche. It's kind of like when I did ACC swimming and diving a couple of years ago for the conference. You're preparing for each event, but then when you get the start sheets for each event, and it might not be until the day before or 2 days before, and then the finals, it's definitely after the last prelims. John, as you know, preparing for these shows and all you do, you got to get to be comfortable. You got to go through every single athlete. You're going through athletic department websites, newspaper articles, things online. And it's just something I think, both of us, we take a lot of pride in. So it's a lot of hours, but it was a privilege to do for my 3rd year. And I think we delivered a nice product that aired on ACC Network on Sunday morning.
Yeah, well, and for those that may not follow you on social, and they need to, you were giving a bit of a blow-by-blow on leaving there, getting to the airport at an, oh my God, early hour to hop on a plane to get to the match for Philly and NYC. Can you sleep on planes?
Not really. Maybe I'll take a cat nap. And are you the same way? Yeah. I wish I could. You're right. I was up at 3 a.m. at Boston. But look, those are. I got to tell you, when I see some of the stars of art, this game to that game, I think that's something that a lot of folks maybe listening and watching that want to be a broadcaster strive for. I actually get this like adrenaline rush that when I'm going from an event to an event. And I have to make sure, and I've done this a lot, especially when I was the voice of a national lacrosse team in New York, the New York Riptide, before they moved
Yeah,
to,
buddy.
they moved to Ottawa.
Atlanta, sir, brother. I know all
There,
about that stuff.
there you go. And then I would hop from lacrosse to like ESPN college basketball, then shift back to the Union. But it was great, and I just had to make sure I was called like terminology, lingo. I was doing the right thing at this, even though I've done it for a number of years. And just I tell people, lastly, with some of these sports, you got to go for it. Put yourself in the first sport I ever called on national TV was when I was a college student at Indiana, was field hockey. And I really knew nothing about it. And I grew to love the sport. The first game was Indiana, Ohio State on the Big Ten Network. BTN came to me because I was doing a bunch of sports at Indiana as a student, traveling with the volleyball and the softball team as a radio announcer, which was an amazing opportunity. And they said, how about field hockey? We have a gig. You're in Bloomington. And I did it. And then fast forward about maybe 5-6 years later, after a couple more games on BTN, the U.S. women's national team was training in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour and a half where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And I called all their matches from like 2015 to 2019 on local TV out there. I think it goes to show you, if somebody said to you, and again, it doesn't need to be an ESPN or an MLS team, whatever it is, hey, would you do field hockey, swimming and diving, track and field? I think your answer should be yes. Mm-hmm. Study it, ask the people who are in it the whole time. And that goes for writing, reporting, trying to get a credential to a high school game, just to get your feet in the door.
Yes, and we appreciate you quoting Winston Zeddemore for us very, very early on a Tuesday morning. When someone asks you if you are a God, Ray, you say yes.
Yes, exactly.
Don't ever turn down an opportunity. But I will admit, and you and I talk to high schools and colleges and do the mentoring interviews all the time. I mix terminology sometimes. When it comes to sports, specifically, there'll be times like when I'm calling soccer, and eventually we'll get into the soccer discussion here. But I'll be calling soccer, and if you're at the edge of the 18, I'll say you're at the elbow, because literally, I mean, that 90-degree angle right there at the edge, he's at the elbow edge of the 18 over on the far side, far post. For me, just because of the blending of sports, sometimes that will drift in. But for the novice or the person that's not really 130,000% soccer, they can understand it if you bring in those other sports to kind of give them the geography and the lay of the land sometimes.
No doubt. And what I do, I'll share a little behind the scenes. And I was doing this literally, maybe in one of the videos you saw me post, like outside the hotel at 4 a.m.
Yes.
Is after I wrapped up track and field, I'm literally going through in my mind and out loud with nobody there in Boston at that time, just going through mock calls of the Union New York City game I just did. Literally saying, here's Lukic over to Danley in swinger in, kicked out by whoever, Thiago Martins, outside the area. It gallops into Milani Lasky, and I would just go through all these calls, and then I would try to do, hey, maybe a little bit more, because I just did TV for track and field, maybe a little bit more of radio. So, for example, like Indy Vasiliev for a corner of the Union, 25th minute, no score, two-step approach. He pendulums his leg back, swings it forward, in-swinger to the back post, looking for Makanya, a little bit high of Matt Freese, out for a goal kick. And I would go through these things, and people might be thinking, oh, my God, what's this guy doing? He's crazy. But that just gets me into a rhythm. And I'm even doing that on my drive down, with music player into the stadium in Chester. So it's something like I tell you, I really, I'm in my 11th season with the Union. Since the AppleTV deal, I became the radio voice of the Union. I was part of our local TV coverage since 2016. And I will tell you that walking through the threshold of the stadium, I still remember like my first day getting in there, and like the first gig I ever got doing schlepping, as I say, all the equipment from my dorm at Indiana and doing Indiana women's soccer and men's soccer. And I think in this business today, with which we all know with the job market, you can't take it for granted what you do. I'm very privileged and honored to be part of the Union. I know we'll get into it. I know it's been kind of a hair pulling start with our fan base right now, and I totally get it and understand. But I'm delighted to be part of
No
the
doubt.
action.
All right. So let's get into said action. And coming out of 25 and heading into 26, what were some of the tent poles mentally that you were bringing with you from the 25 season to look forward to in 26? What were some of those early markers for you that you were bringing with you?
Yeah. All right. So let's do cliff notes of 25. I think a lot of people wrote off the union even before the season started because Bradley Carnell and the staff, remember, got hired a little bit late in January of last year. It was what I would call, a controversial decision by the staff to let go Jim Curtin, who's been around for a very, very long time. And yeah, we did have a down year, and maybe there was some friction between him and the front office. And that's in the past. And, I loved working with Jim and he was so great to me. But they had a down year and they went a different direction. And I think what I saw nationally, if you want to call it that, is that people didn't know what to expect and how the core that was left over would adapt to Bradley and how Bradley would adapt to them. And maybe we got a little bit away from how we played. Maybe we played with a little bit more possession in the last year under Jim. And things just went south at home, I would say a lot, which was uncharacteristic of the Union, who have made it a fortress, I would say, since winning the Shield in that 23-24 regular season campaign in the COVID year. Went far in MLS's back, and then we got bounced out of the playoffs. But that was back in 20 against New England. And then you fast forward to Bradley. Bradley starts out winning in Orlando. And I think that shocked everybody. The team started out 3-0, John, and people were like, wow, who are the Union this year? Wow, you're getting Wagner's having a great start. The same with Glesnes, Ty Baribo. If you remember going back, and I want to say, beginning third of the season, Ty was leading the league. And I know it was early, but Ty was leading the league in the Golden Boot race. Again, I know very early in the season, but we were like, wow, this is something. And then we went on a 13-game unbeaten streak across all competitions, kind of the midway point of the year. They got a big win against Bradley's old club, St. Louis, early on, where we had 10 different players in the starting lineup due to injury and international duty. So some of the things that were coming up, like we were scoring early in games. We were coming back late in games. Like one of our players that just got loaned to Brooklyn and USL, Marcus Anderson, scored, I think in June last year in the 98th minute over Charlotte. And as the season was unfolding, I said to myself, wow, pressing, counter-pressing, transition numbers, PPDA, passes per defensive action, we were towards the top in MLS. Set pieces, we've been, and this is empirical data, objective, Union have been one of the best set piece taking teams in the world, not just in MLS. And the staff has shown me whether it's a top 5, top 10 in the world. So that's a compliment to assistant coach Frank Licht and the staff there, and obviously the players and Kai Wagner executing. And then lastly, I'll wrap it up by saying from last year, we got spanked 7-0 at Vancouver. And I said to myself, man, how are they going to respond from that? And they put Bedoya right back in that game. There was a lot of change, international duty, guys injured to prompt that decision. He did well in the previous game. I believe it was, we were in Chicago, and he shut down Zinkernackle, and maybe it was more so Bombo on that side and maybe somebody else. Just didn't go well in Vancouver. We did respond well. We had a good finish to the regular season. I think we wrapped up in Charlotte, win our first series against Chicago in the playoffs. One of them we had to win, I guess, the first game in penalties. And then we win in Bridgeview game 2. And then we had that unconventional FIFA break, John, where it was a 3-week break. And, I think for the sport, taking off my Union hat here, I think it's a shame with the time, because you want momentum. You want people to watch, people to listen to the games and follow your team. I can't tell you how many people I saw in the Philly area by me that said, why do you guys have this big break in the playoffs? And I'm explaining the FIFA windows to non-soccer fans and all that. And the players are training and simulating games and going through. The Union did a scrimmage with the 2 team and mixed things up. And look, tip the cap to New York City. They beat us. We didn't play a great game. We were very flat, and they beat us in the Eastern Conference semifinal last year, and they beat us again on Sunday. So to wrap up, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how would the front office attack 25 and the 26 to your question? And with that background information in mind, I was curious to see who they would keep. The Baribo one was one that, I talked to Ty a little bit throughout the season, about kind of the stuff. And, he really didn't know where things would stand out of the contract. I'm guessing the player wanted a little bit more, and it came to DC. He just had a new child. So I was a little surprised that Ty left, but I totally get it. Go get yours, right? And he went to DC for a little bit more cash. Wagner's a big miss as well. As far as for those that follow the Union, chance creation, just the sheer number of crosses and set piece opportunities. He was the maestro for the Union for, I believe we had him for 7 years, all-time assist leader. He had aspirations for a number of years to go to Europe to play. And he's now at Birmingham City, and for the latest I've seen, he's been flourishing really, really well for them. And I'm quite honestly not surprised. The one to me that I was surprised was Jacob Glesnes in the trade to Galaxy, because I believe they re-signed him like the year before to an extension. And, Jacob's been, a leader, a mainstay back there. He really had a bounce back season from the year prior, so 24, where he had like a hernia surgery and another thing going on. Into 25, I mean, you lose two best 11 defenders, two candidates for Defender of the Year, in Glesnes, center back, who really helped Wetu Makanya in his metamorphosis, and Kai. And then we lost Ua, that went back to Denmark with the verticality and the play on the counter as well. And so I was thinking to myself, John, lastly, I know I'm going long here in the answer,
good, brother.
But how do they address those concerns?
Mm-hmm.
I say concerns. How do they address those guys leaving? Because that's a big core, and I know that's been written up nationally. And for those that follow the Union, look, we're a selling club. We develop within. I think a lot of our fan base, wants to see it on the other paradigm of that.
Yep.
A la what you said before I came on, like Toronto and Sargent and others. And it's just not our ethos of the team. And younger guys are going to have to step up, which I think is what's going on right now. We're one of the younger teams in MLS, maybe an average age of 23. They bring in Ezekiel Elado with a record transfer fee of around $4.5 million. He was suspended, got a red card in DC, suspended for the last game. Yep. Wetu Makanya picked up a red card last game late against City. So what we're relying on is these younger guys to gel together. And I think speaking with the staff coming from Spain, where they were at again, and Clearwater, that chemistry still needs to manifest, John, early in the season. I think that's what's happening right now. The guys still need to be a little bit more connected, and we got to figure it out as the weeks roll on.
No doubt, and that's why I wanted to kind of educate everybody leading into what happened against NYC. And I'm going to phrase it this way. As we refer to him as a quick trigger Chris Penso, yes, proper hydration. We always like that here on the morning show. Yeah. Quick trigger Chris Penso had a couple of moments, and I was literally looking in my notes, because what we will do is on Mondays we have one of our referee types. He'll come in and we'll do cards and calls that either raise an eyebrow, or you sit there and you go, what? And need an explanation. I literally had I had 3 moments in the last 30 of your matchup against NYC that either raised an eyebrow, palm skyward, or all of the above. And what was it like trying to see this club navigate being down 2-0 in the final 30 minutes with those 2 new players at the back, with Milan Olaski now up top, which I think is a steal of steals, frankly, getting Milan Olaski. So with this 2026 group, take me into what you saw with the matchup against NYC and trying to combat that 2-0 deficit in the last 30 minutes.
So I will say there were some questionable calls from shots shots from the top of the area, like centrally at Freeze, that we thought, like Sebastian Latou and I calling the game on radio for the Union, we thought they took deflections and Union players were running at the referee. And I didn't know if he was conferring in the headset with the AR on the far side or the near side. And they were just called goal kicks. We were like, okay. And I try not to make it too much of the referees. They have a hard job to do. The one that was head scratching for me. So there was a foul in the game on I believe it was Martins hitting like the left leg of Jovan Lukic, a Union midfielder, that they went to VAR and took a very, very long look at it. Sebastian and I have a monitor in the booth, and we're looking at the replay, and we call it like it is. It's not always, we're not going to always be pro-union. We're just going to tell people the truth. And that's what, I'm all about, on my broadcasts. And, they were looking at it for a long time. We know from other sports, too, from Major League Baseball, what they do with their replay system, with the NBA and Secaucus. The longer you take a look at these things, and the call on the field was just I think it was just coming out as a goal kick for Freeze. I don't think there was any infraction. We thought, oh my gosh, they're going to change this to a penalty for the Union, because then it led to, it was a foul where the New York City defender hit Lukic, and then Nate Harriel, I believe, slipped in, Union defender, and had a chance at goal. So kind of right before like a denial of a goal scoring opportunity, but there was a foul clearly in the box. And they looked at it for a long time and deemed no foul, and it came out. And I think that was perplexing. And then later on the Indy, Vasilev banged home a penalty to tie it late. I was like, okay, on that one, I didn't really see too much from the New York City player to have that be a penalty for the Union. I was, as a Union guy, thankful that Indy stepped up in the 89th and buried it. And then we went into like 10 minutes of extra time. But there were a couple out there, and I think Union fans were not pleased in the stadium with how the match was adjudicated. And look, it goes both sides. What I don't get is, and now this is now twice in 2 games. So for the Union getting red cards. So Ezekiel Alido, new signing, up top, brings in a lot of speed. I'm told by for nobody that knows this kid, I'm told by the staff, like for like an under 23 guy, coming from like a top 5 league, coming from Sweden. He has like this, whatever the metrics are in speed that they were showing me. It's his age group. So he can get to a ball, you play in a ball, and he's got to chase it. He has this rapid pace where he showed, a lot of data that he can, hit teams if we want to play direct over the top or on the counter. That verticality, maybe we missed that a little bit last year. This kid can bring that up top, because you got to replace Baribo. Like I said, you got to replace Ua, and you said it. Bringing Ilosky midway point of last year, and now Milan is our new number 10. And you're right, terrific with San Diego last year, had 4 goals in a game. Fantastic with Nordjylland. And he was great because he brings a little bit different to the Union. Can take a shot from the outside, can make that playmaking ability. Is he the creative, dynamic, like 1v1 guy like Luciano Acosta was, or are you making something out of nothing? I believe he can with his shots from the outside. And that's something the Union haven't made. But how he connects with the guys, if we get a little bit more into the wide areas, and his pressing cues, which we ask all our guys up top to do, is very important. And Milan can play the 9 or the 10. And you're right, he played as a second forward last game next to Bruno Damiani, because Alido had a red card. So Alido got a red card in the DC game for arguing. I believe he said something nasty probably to the DC. I don't even know what he said, John.
I don't either. I think it was just a magic word, and whatever that magic word was, then bang. And then you end up with Makanya getting the second yellow, and I've seen it multiple times, and I'm still trying to figure out what he did other than brush by and, give him a case.
He was mad that a corner at the end of the game was allowed, and I think he was like smacking his hands like in frustration to Chris Penso, and I guess he said some words to Chris. Like, I don't. So here's what I'd say, and John, you know this as well. I think the Union players, and I think the staff would tell you this, and the players would too. Nate Harriel said it in the press too, kind of like we're, quote, like shooting ourselves in the foot late in games. We can't do that. Nate stepped up into a leadership role, U.S. international as well, and a great guy. And I agree. We got to hold our composure late in the games. And you're missing, Blake in goal, a leader. Bedoya still re-signed for a year, but Bedoya played in CONCACAF Champions Cup play. Obviously a different role for Ali, but still a fantastic player, means so much to that locker room. He's not on the field. You need that leadership to galvanize the group with the outfield players. And you don't have Klestis, you don't have Wagner that's around some of those younger kids to say, hey guys, let's keep our cool a little bit late in games. And now we miss Macania for a tough San Jose team coming into town on Saturday, who's 2-0, a fantastic start for Arena's club. And then the other side of it is, and I've obviously never gotten to the level of professional, but I've officiated youth sports a little bit in different sports. And I would say, sometimes at that juncture in a game, do you let the guys jaw at you until it's really crossing the line personal and it's where you're at late? Teams are fighting for that goal to death. And I guess Penso said, hey, that's enough till Wetu, and that was it. I give a tip of the cap to New York, John. They came out so much better than we did in the first half. What impresses me about them is, like us, as soon as they lose the ball, how quickly do they win it back and find the pockets of space to work in transition? Maxi Morales at 38, 39, can slip past a 6 or a center back and find just that slimmer of space and play a quick flick on the outside of his boot. And there's interchange that New York deploys with Hannes Wolf and Augustine Ojeda where they flip both sides. They were brilliant. Nico Fernandez-Mercal, he's not a target number 9 guy up top. They're missing Alonso Martinez due to the injury last year, and hopefully he's all right. But he slips to the outside. They got that fluidity working in their transition moments. And they, teams against the Union have been playing this mid-block where they're like, Union, you have the ball, and you're going to try to pass through us. We saw that a lot last year in the playoff game against City. I thought that was cumbersome for the Union in half one. We were much better, and we were the better team objectively in half number 2. But Matt Freese made some sensational saves. And, for me, I think that kid, I love Matt. He's from mainline area of Philly. I've talked with him many times. I'm so happy for him in his career getting, the number 1 job with New York and what he's done with the U.S. And I'm hoping he can get that number 1 job for the U.S. men's national team at the World Cup. We lost late in the end. Lastly, I'll say, off of a dead ball corner, Tavon Gray slips in off of Ben Bender, playing a new position at left back, by the way. Again, this is all filling Kai Wagner. We made a new signing, which we can get to if you want to, at that position.
Yep.
And Bender lost him, and Tavon Gray outmuscled him for the header to beat us at the death.
All right. So you mentioned new signing, and this is kind of where we'll kind of get toward the matchup with San Jose. So for those that are not as up to date, the new signing, please, sir, introduce us to the gentleman.
So Philip Ndinga just signed from the club from Sweden. Younger guy, I'm told by the staff, and I actually was shown clips, which was so great to see by the club, that, and obviously you can look at these things online too, but he's a guy that he's a younger player. He's going to be the new left back. We'll see if he's ingratiated into the team when he gets to the club by the weekend or after. By the way, we play Atlanta in 2 weeks.
Yes, you do.
Which I'm excited. That's my first plane ride with the team. So excited for that one at Mercedes-Benz. And then I would say with this, it's position shoes to fill. I'm curious to see, will he put in the plethora of crosses that Kai serviced? I don't know. It remains, training remains to be seen. What I have seen, what I've been told, he has that physicality, can a 5-10 yard challenge, can get high up on the left, can drift inside. Like the Union like to play a high line of confrontation. We like to get to the midway line, put pressure, draw teams offside behind us. Maybe Owatu Makani can be a little bit deeper than a new guy, Jeff Siri, who's a new acquisition for the club coming from Braun in Norway. So Ndinga, will have to see how he provides, service. But I look for him as a guy that's brave. And I think that plays into what the Bradley Carnell system is. And that's guys that are going to go after it on their front foot, not their back. I think watching him and learning from the staff, his first instinct is to get forward, to come up with that challenge, is to take chances. And I think that's what we want, especially 1v1 defending and even zonal marking. And he's got to develop that partnership, I believe, on that side with Lukic and Makanya, because we talk a lot about partnerships with the Union. And I would say that's a position that the Union need, because what we're missing, I would say, John, whether the Union want to play like this or not this year, is we're missing all those crosses. We're getting it from Frankie Westfield's battling a little bit of a hamstring injury, young U.S. player. He's brought in a couple of crosses on the right. Harriel was playing left back. Yet you're getting they put Finn Sundstrom, a kid from the USL, which had a bright U.S. Youth national career, started the DC game. I think DC was challenging him a lot in that game, and we lost that 1-0. We need that position. That's been a position that Union fans have said, like, Wagner's been your guy for, like I said, 7 seasons. We'll see if Ndinga can deliver. And I always say this: it's tough in my experience in the league, and just seeing it through the Union eyes, it's tough for guys that had success overseas coming into their first year in America in MLS and acclimating, whether they've done well. And I'm not talking Messi. I'm talking about other guys to a different level. So, like Bruno Damiani scores 7 goals from Uruguay first year. This is year 2 for him. Obviously, the much better stands in year 2. So we need that left back position in Ndinga. But like I said, I believe it's going to take time. And I think that's what's frustrating, I think, for Union fans is you see a team that only lost 1 regular season home game last year, won the Shield for a second year. And you're like, you get rid of your core. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the unblemished start to begin the year. And they had a big preseason in Spain and Clearwater, Florida, but it's going to take time. And like you said, it's not going to be easy on Saturday against San Jose, especially without Macania due to the red card as well.
All right. So if you would please, sir,
Yeah.
cut the promo for me and let everybody know how they can consume all of the Dave Leno that they can on a daily basis when it comes to Philadelphia Union, not just this Saturday if they so choose, but every single day of the week, 24/8, 370. Hit me.
I really appreciate that. Well, first and foremost, so say, our Philadelphia Union broadcast, we do home and on the road. We do travel with the team, which we're so grateful to have that opportunity as several MLS clubs have that with their commentators, which I will say, I think, especially with the AppleTV deal, I think it's very important that a lot of my colleagues that you have on your show, that they do go with the team. And if they can't go, at least call the road games as well. I think that's really important. I wish, selfishly, for our group of radio commentators, I wish there was an option also for road radio feed.
You ain't kidding, brother. That is going to, if I'm Grand Exalted Poobah of the planet, that is my first thing to fix.
I think it's literally just a plug. And it's probably because a lot of the road commentators, I shouldn't say a lot, but many road teams don't travel.
Yeah.
I just think if a team does it and they're there, or even if they're at home, should have the opportunity to have it on there and that's serving not the broadcasters, that's serving the fans and your stakeholders, right? Mm-hmm. I'm friends with a lot of the AppleTV commentators in English and Spanish. Friends with a lot of MLS radio broadcasters as well. And I think everybody across the gamut does a fabulous job. And I just want to put that out there for all the hard work that everybody does. And for people like yourself, everybody that cover the great game, because we need to pump this baby up even more in a World Cup year too. So appreciate all that you do. I want to say that first and foremost. Secondly, from my Union standpoint, look, it's not going to get easy. We're playing a San Jose team, since like the COVID year. What, John? You might know it better than me. We don't have a lot of the West Coast teams coming to Chester anymore. I feel like that travel's been mitigated a little bit. And like the same thing with us going out west. Maybe we play 6 to 8 West Coast teams, or Western Conference teams a season. San Jose starting out 2-0. Bruce Arena, getting 275 wins at the top of the list up there. He's got a few of his guys from his New England team in the past, and Buck and company, DeJuan Jones, I believe, outside back with their team. But when you have Nico Werner up top, Paul Marie playing really well at the start of the season, it's going to be a challenge for our back line. Without a Wetu Macania, the staff has a decision to make is who you're playing at center back. And, is that Nate Harriel, who's played a couple all 4 spots of the back line last year, does he step into that center back role? It could be a new acquisition in Gainer Martinez, who actually has performed pretty well. He could be a guy to fill in there, and you're still going to have to play Nate and Frankie at right and left back. Both those guys can play either position, and you have to wait to see where Ndinga is when he comes to the Union. If you ask me, is the new guy going to start on Saturday? I don't know. We have to get him into the club and see if he's training. So I think we got to get that chemistry defensively, that organization in front of Andre Blake first and foremost. And by the way, Andre Blake made a fantastic stop on a breakaway with a young kid on Seymour Reed. You see that? Coming from like the top of the circle, dribbling. I think probably Reed needs to be a little bit more better, a little better there against Blake. For my money, Blake's made some great stops to keep the Union in it, even going back to the playoff game against New York City last year, where he kept the Union in it. Unfortunately, we lost, and Andre had a hamstring injury, had to come out of that playoff game. Yep. So Blake healthy is a big storyline that I think a lot of people that don't follow the Union need to keep an eye on. I will tell you, and I want to give this kid credit before I go. Andrew Rick, who's our number 2, has been fabulous. Mm-hmm. We're also in CONCACAF Champions Cup play. We demolished, and I say that with respect, Defense Force FC in Trinidad and Tobago, 12-0 on nothing in the last game.
Defense Force needs a little bit of both, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Sullivan, it's great to see him score, his first 2 goals in a Union kit. We'll see if and I think he'll play a little bit more in MLS. He did come off the bench as a 16-year-old last game. What we need to do is in the attack, those transition moments, passing. Like Seba and I say often on our call, can we win the second and third balls in transition? Can we have a little bit more combination play, which we had a lot more bright spots, as I said a little bit ago, in half number 2. But we need to come out in half number 1 at home with that bite, that zest on the ball. We do well against the ball. That the pressing and trying to win the ball quickly, that's not of concern, I think, to a lot of Union fans right now. It's on the ball. Is how do we get from our 6s to the front line and get like a Bruno Damiani, Milani Lasky involved early on in the games? I think that will be key for the Union against a very tough and undefeated San Jose team. Lastly, folks can hear our broadcast. We're on 97.5 The Fanatic. It's a Philadelphia sports station, but anybody around the country can download the free 97.5 The Fanatic app, free to do. Our call comes in crystal clear on the app, home and the road. You can hear us. We're also obviously as an AppleTV option for the home games as well. And for me, it's a real, like I said, just being from Philadelphia, growing up listening to our great voices in this area, like there are around the country with the local teams, to be a local voice of our teams. I never take it for granted. And I'm hoping that for the club's sake, that they can turn it around this weekend. We go into Atlanta. That's always for the Union. Historically, John, as you know, a tough place for the Union to win, regardless of how Atlanta's doing, which I'm very curious how they'll do this go around under Tata again. But I can't wait for the San Jose matchup. I believe it's a 7:30 kickoff, and I'll have the broadcast with Sebo on 97.5 The Fanatic on Saturday.
And as always, my friend, it's great to see you. Looking forward to it. Time to get our San Jose and Atlanta intel from Kacey White from AppleTV. Great to see you, my friend. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you very much for the time, John, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you, sir. Dave is going to now go get his 38th cup of coffee, and he'll be in good shape. All right. Now, as Dave was the one to kind of steer us toward San Jose going to Philly, time to catch up with Kacey D, because we know what Kacey D, where she be. She'd be back from her Orange Fitness Theory, the Minnesota Aurora pullover.
I'm rocking it today.
Wow. Well, now, all right. So is there a connection, or did you think, much like me, it's just cool gear?
It is cool gear. I will say that, but there is a connection. Andrea Yock is a good friend. Okay. Met her along the way through Jamie Watson, who I went to college with. And so, you know how the soccer world is. You just meet people, and met her. My sister lives in Minnesota and her family. So I actually got to tour Minnesota Aurora when I flew up there and got to see Andrea. So definitely an exciting club for sure.
So you went to school with Jamie?
Yeah, we went to Carolina together.
Okay, so all right. So next time Jamie comes on, I have to give him grief about that. All right, that's cool. That's good intel to have.
You should give me grief about that. I was a year older than him in school. That could be a fun triple interview. Well, you never know.
Okay, so that's a bet. So when we can get Jamie to come in on a Tuesday at 9:00 his time, because he lives in Nashville, and he has, I think, he has, I forget if it's a train. I think he has a train that goes through his backyard at points because you can hear the train whistle. Literally, he'll be out on his lanai out back when he'll be talking to us when he's not inside, and you'll hear a train go by, or you'll hear like construction or yard work or something. And so literally, so yeah, when we can get Jamie in to do a three-way dance in this segment, but he's got to come in your segment. We're not going to steer it to where you have to parachute in for one of his. He's got to come in here Tuesday at 10 to talk about
that. And we are Orange Theory buddies / competitors, so we can bring that up too. But yes, it can be fun. So we'll do that one of these days.
Yes, three-way dance with you and Jamie. So that's very cool. Okay, Dave Leno is going to be seeing San Jose coming to Philly.
Right.
And what we have kind of got with our format here, Ali Curtis from the president of MLS NEXT Pro joining us at the bottom of the hour. So what we've decided to do this season in our incredibly long executive meetings for this segment is go over the goals that were scored in your match with you and Christian and kind of break down what you saw because, one, San Jose is heading to Philly. Two, Atlanta's coming home, and so now folks are getting to see Atlanta for the first time this year. Before we get into the goals, overall assessment of what you saw from San Jose and Atlanta on the weekend.
Well, I'll first say I just expected more in general from Atlanta United. I thought it was a really tough performance for them. But a lot of that, too, for San Jose, they started so quickly. There was a lot of attack, a lot of runs forward, good pressing. They just looked way more energetic at the end of the day. And you know me, I can break it down into a million other things, and we probably will here today. But ultimately, from just an energy perspective and an intentionality perspective, San Jose dominated.
Yes, and Madison Cruz and I had pre and post on local radio, and so we were watching all of that for 90 minutes as well. So first moment that we'll get into is obviously goal number one. And because, when two goals are scored, you have to start with the first one. So early on, Preston Judd ends up being the benefactor. We're going to play the call that you and Christian had on Apple TV. So this is courtesy of Apple TV in Major League Soccer.
It's a side that's really trying to stabilize things at the back, like San Jose. This Atlanta United side conceded 63 goals last year. And they've coughed it up once again. It's Jamar Ricketts looking to pounce, pulls it across. Judd! Oh, yes! Seismic for Judd. 2-2.
He's in front of goal. It's a turnover in the buildup. But what I liked from Ricketts was that he didn't even think about dribbling forward. He takes one touch. He goes right away. I'm going to take you on the 1v1. Sanchez not able to catch him. And then it's a delicate ball. That is a very difficult header because there's not a lot of pace on this. But it's textbook as Preston Judd clicks it on, gets it straight down, and almost impossible to save.
You are not kidding with that with Lucas Hoyos. And it starts with Hoyos pressured, trying to play out from inside of his own 6. And as we were looking at it, and like I said, you can correct me and hit me over the head if I'm wrong, but it looked like Hoyos's outlet to Cooper Sanchez had too much on it, and it was too far away from him to get to. And then it was easy for Ricketts to pounce on. And then everyone at that point is chasing Ricketts with the cross, and it was deflected, and Preston Judd was there for the slam dunk. What did you see?
What happens in that moment of buildup when there's something that goes technically wrong? Because ultimately he had Sanchez as an outlet. He missed it. He absolutely missed it. So when that happens, everyone around you immediately goes into chase mode, and you somewhat forget as a player, you shouldn't, but you do. It's natural. Like, where do I need to be? And you kind of freak out a little bit. Like, I've got to recover. So Sanchez is chasing, but Jamar Ricketts takes one touch, puts his head down, goes right at him to get in the box. Sanchez can't recover. So he goes from an attacking body position to a defending body position. And then two players are drawn out to recover. So then Preston Judd is between the two center backs. So when Mihai gets pulled over into that space, and also Baez, better call, has to come over and get tight to Judd. But that is all happening so incredibly quick. Yeah. And you're in this expansive attacking shape not thinking that your goalkeeper is not going to be able to execute that pass. So you're just in recovery mode. But credit to San Jose, but it really was about Atlanta United. It all went wrong in a moment of buildup.
Yeah, and at the same time, you are with a back line that, to a certain degree, in the midfield, missing pieces and still trying to get acquainted with each other. Elias Baez as your left back, trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to assist Barakal and Mihai in these situations, just in normal game state, not in, oh my God, I've got to recover state and I've got to rush over and be a part of things. So, match week 2, you're still trying to get acquainted with what the keeper wants to do with the weight of a pass, going back to what we were talking about last week. How's it going to be delivered on this surface? And Hoyos was having problems on the surface at PayPal early on, and it created a lot of early issues for him.
It did. And excuse me, I meant Hernandez, not Baez. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yes. And the thing that Tata Martino said to us, and I think he has said over and over, is that they want to be a build-out team. They want to outpossess teams. But early in the season, you have to figure that out with different units, and there's going to be mistakes. So if you're going to be a build-out team, your recovery from turnovers and counter pressing and how you organize has to be really important until it gets more efficient. But San Jose's defensive shape, they put 2 up on the center backs in their pressing shape. So immediately Hoyos does not have those simple options. So now he has to figure out how to find the outside backs, or he has to have those breaking line passes through the midfield. That's a little bit more scary. And if you're technically off, it's going to set the attack for the other team. That's what happened on this goal. But it also happened, to your point, multiple times because no one was really able to figure out how to get past that pressing shape.
Yeah, and it took putting the thinking cap on to try to figure that out. And also, you don't have Alexei Miranchuk as your point guard because he's still trying to get into 90 minutes fitness. And so you're trying to take your pieces that you have, still be who you are, and going up against the challenges that the opposition knows that they can pounce on you in these certain situations. Am I off here?
No, you're not off. And I was a coach that I love to build out of the back. And so I feel for these moments, because when you're having your players do it, there are going to be mistakes. You hope they don't turn into goals at the professional level. You hope that doesn't happen. But if that is going to be your team profile, you encourage your players to do it. And you say, you can do this. You can get out of this. You can make that extra pass to shift players. It is all about when you do it, though. And there are times, and I even said it once on the broadcast, I think going into the second half, it was almost screaming for just a diagonal ball to turn the backs of the San Jose Earthquakes back line. But that's not the player profiles overall that Atlanta has, especially in that game up top, besides the Latte Lot, who was being forced to come back. So I think that Tata Martino is going to keep pushing them to do this. It's just a matter of what pieces are in there to help them get through the pressure. And San Jose is a quick team.
Yes.
One of the more athletic teams. So it was highlighted, I think.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to get into Tata Martino and what he wants from his club after we play the second goal and talk a little bit about it. Obviously, you're down a goal, you're chasing, and game's going to get stretched a little bit. Some dude that we've heard of came in with about 30 to go. I thought it might be closer to 15 to 20. Yeah. Some dude comes in and he turns into that instant catalyst. Goal number 2 for San Jose, courtesy of TVand Major League Soccer.
I don't think it's that bad for the San Jose Earthquakes because they have the counter-attacking ability.
And hard charging Timo Werner on that opposite side. Werner! It's in! Buddha time from Timo.
San Jose Earthquakes in attack. That underlapping run from Skane. Look at the awareness to know that the space is behind the back line. Timo Werner takes that quick little look over his shoulder. It looks like he's going to go in the 1v1, but the angle is all for Mihai. He sees that little look out of the left eye there and finds Buddha coming and crashing into the penalty area. Well done on a bouncing ball to run through the back of the net and make sure it goes across the end line.
All right, break this one down for us. For me, it was a transition opportunity because, once again, Atlanta United's chasing. Down the right-hand side, Timo Werner shows why he can be the dangerous individual that he can be. Interesting point that you made about Mihai during the play. Okay, break this one down for me.
We were talking earlier, because just before this, Atlanta was starting to get a little bit of the play, and it was starting to get a little higher up the field with the ball and make San Jose defend, and it was starting to get stretched a little bit more. The game was. And I was right at the beginning of that call, I was basically saying, usually it's good for the team that's not up to have the game stretched. But for San Jose, who has the pace and the timing of runs in behind, it actually wasn't so bad for them either. And then this goal happened because both Berkal and Mihai were back. But when Skane got the ball, he realized it was a 2v2 at the back. And so he sprung Timo Werner into that outside channel. Timo Werner looked like he could take on in the 1v1, but Mihai had a really nice recovering angle to cut off Timo's ability to go to goal, unless he cut in completely on his left foot. Yeah. But if he had done that with the angle of approach from Mihai, it would have taken him away from the 18 rather than into the 18 to beat Mihai. So I thought this was a really intelligent decision from Werner to just take a look over his shoulder, play the ball behind the back line of the defense, because you put a defender in such a compromising situation because they're facing their own goal. So they either have to let it go or they take the chance of having an own goal when they try to clear it. And Budo was the recipient of that. So there was a lot in this goal that I really liked. And it was in the context of what was happening tactically as well.
All right. So with Atlanta United getting to come back home, taking on RSL, what had and I know this is literally just looking at 90 minutes and all the game tape that you've stared at, what have you seen from Atlanta United so far in the match and the highlights that you've seen? What are your takeaways right now from Atlanta United in 2026?
The thing that stands out to me, and this really isn't a surprise, is when Moranchuk comes in, they've been better. And I don't, sometimes when you bring someone in, and I know he's not at his 90 minutes, but when you bring someone in late in games, the game's a little more open, or they've been able to watch and find spaces so it can be a different type of role. But with him coming in and the other substitutes, I just felt like there was a little bit more control of the game. I made a note of this in the game that when Jakob went to right back, they got him extremely high and they stayed with the other three a little bit lower. And then Moranchuk was able to go centrally. So they're created like this 4v3 in midfield and then Almiron and Latelat were operating more up top. It just seemed like they made it a little bit harder on San Jose when they had the ability to have Moranchuk on the ball and Almiron. I just think it feels like the midfield, not midfielders. I want to make that clear. The middle third of the field, they need to control that a little bit more. And having the personnel to get on the ball, I think he helped that in that game.
And you know, to me, what I like in that too, when you send one of your outside backs forward, it's like you're taking the dial on an old radio, it's like the old stereo receiver, and you kind of turn the dial like one notch. That means that everything rotates that one way. So your left back and your center backs go back and help out that space that's taken up by the right back or whatever back is going forward. Everyone rotates that one place over. And since you have 2 6s, one of them can help out and the other goes into attack. And so that's where your cover comes from if you end up with someone like double nickel 55 going forward to help things out offensively. And that's the best way that I can describe what I think is happening in that kind of a moment. Am I off?
No, you're not off. I think there's a lot of positives. Another positive on top of that is that it's risk versus reward. So the way I look at this is if you have a higher starting position in your attack, if you do lose the ball, your distances are closer to win it back and you're pressing higher up the field. So I always say this because I'm an NFL American football fan as well. It's like it's about gaining territory sometimes. Sometimes you just need to get everyone higher up the field. And if you look at the flip side of it, DeJuan Jones and Benji Kikanovic for San Jose, they risked. They flew forward, they pressed, and they reaped the benefits of that. Atlanta did start to do that in the second half more, even with Hernandez still in there. But it's just hard because they kept getting caught between, do I go to DeJuan Jones or do I stay with Jamar Ricketts? And that's the hard part. But for Atlanta United, the second half, I think that was one of the positives, was getting Jakob a little bit higher to allow for that.
One of the tenets that Tata Martino has talked about going into this season, and he may have divulged it when you had your pregame talk, is the idea of basically playing bravely. And he wants everything to be forward. I want you to be aggressive. I want you to be the protagonista, which may have come up in your conference call, that particular word. When you're a protagonista, what he is looking for is that push. He wants you to be aggressive. He wanted Cooper Sanchez after match day 1 against FC Cincinnati. Look, you did great, but I need you to go forward and be more aggressive in that. And if you make mistakes, I want you to make mistakes going forward and being aggressive. Like you talk about flipping the field and, being an American football fan, it's almost like, punting to flip the field for field position kind of a thing. So when you're being brave and you're pushing forward, how difficult is that mentally when your default at times is you're afraid to screw up? You don't want to make a mistake because you don't want to get deeper into a hole. How difficult is navigating that whole idea of, I want you to play bravely, I want you to be aggressive, but your default says, okay, I don't want to make things worse. How difficult is that to manage?
It can be hard. I think it depends on personality, natural personality, whether you have fresh starts and you think if I just keep the ball and don't make a lot of mistakes, like I'll stay in this starting 11, or actually that can work against you sometimes because there's not as much impact. And it depends on the position you're playing. Mm-hmm. I think trust is huge with managers and players as well. So as managers and coaches are telling you, you can play forward, you can make mistakes, then they have to know that mistakes could happen. And then you have to trust that you're not going to be pulled. But also you've got to have the pressure of performing. So there's so many nuances of that play into your head mentally as a player. But I do think one thing Tata Martino said to us is that having a build-up style of play takes patience, it takes repetition, and it takes time. And he's right. It's not going to be perfect right away. But if he can instill the confidence in the players to break lines, to not only keep it, but look to be dangerous in keeping it, then it's ideal for players because you feel this freedom to do so. Right now, we're just not seeing that necessarily happen. I do have to say this, though. Hoyos obviously gave up that ball for the goal. Mm-hmm. It can't happen. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say this. The amount of attackers that were above the ball versus the amount of defenders that were there, that goal should not have happened, in my opinion. You still had your 4 backs that were able to recover in, and you had Cooper Sanchez falling with 1 attacking player in the box in Preston Judd, who was wide open. So, yes, a lot does go on Hoyos in this build-up play, and you have to connect those passes, but you also have to know how to recover if there are human mistakes that happen. And I think that was a team thing also that needed to be addressed.
Yeah, and so right now Atlanta United waiting for RSL and a bunch of youngins to come in on the weekend, taking care of business against Seattle. Do you know where you are going to be next week?
I do. I have St. Louis, Seattle, and I will be in St. Louis for that game. So I have never been to Energizer Park, so I'm very excited about that, and will be a good matchup. They both came off losses, so I assume a hungry matchup between these two teams.
Okay. With St. Louis City, I feel like you have to say city, in all caps. You've got a team that doesn't have one of their main guns. Joao Klaus was traded for intra-league dollars to LAG, and you're kind of wondering where the offense is going to come from for St. Louis. It's probably for St. Louis as opposed to 2 froms. Shows you how much caffeine I've had this morning. And Seattle coming off of a loss to RSL 15 years in a row that they have lost at Rio Tinto, which is crazy for me to think about. So you have a team that likes to clamp things down defensively and a team that when healthy has firepower that's there. You don't know what Jordan Morris's status is, probably another couple of weeks. And so you've got these contrasting ideas that you get to be a part of coming up on the weekend. What else struck with you from this past weekend in Major League Soccer coming forward before your visit to St. Louis?
Well, you said it right there. I love contrasting ideas because that means tactically I can just get after it. So I'm excited about that. Hartle was missing versus San Diego for St. Louis City, which was a big loss on the attacking side because, to your point, their attack is a little bit different, and it was hard for them against San Diego. They pressed well, but San Diego just looked so sharp. Mm-hmm. Their build-up play, we know, is incredibly efficient. So that was a difficult task. And I was a little surprised by Seattle losing to RSL. They looked like they were flying in week 1, even with the Morris injury and him going out with Rothrock, coming into the game. Oh, I got to get that off the top.
Rothrock. Take your time with it. Take your time with it. Paul Rothrock.
Oh, goodness. I called their games before, too, and it was fine. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Yeah, so I think that will be a fun matchup. I like the way Jan Dame has St. Louis City organized. I think they look like they're organized well in the press, like where are the goals going to come from? Betcher is industrious. I like him. And I think the partnership with Hartle it's better when he's on the field with Betcher. So I think that's a big thing as well for St. Louis City. Man, this last weekend was fun. I got to watch a lot of games. I was sitting in the hotel. I was on long flights. I can't not mention Orlando City and Miami because it was so fun. I was on the plane, like throwing my hands in the air, like every time a goal happened. I think people thought I was having problems. I was not having problems. I was excited about just all the goals were really nice. I mean, there were two that were probably savable, one for each, but overall, it was an entertaining game and a little spice from Messi as well. You don't see that very often.
Well, yeah, but when you step on Superman's cape, you're going to get that kind of stuff. It's like, you want an autograph now?
I am. Anyone that knows me is like, I'm kind of quiet with that stuff. Like, I'm not a big like instigator type, but I was loving that. I actually loved it, and not because it was Messi. I don't think maybe. But he just never does that. And so with everything going on, a rivalry game, I was getting into it for sure.
All right. What I will do is I will send you some. How much time are you going to have before the match in St. Louis to kind of sample and see what's going on?
A decent amount. I think I get in at like 4:35 p.m. on Friday, and our game's not till 7:30 Central on Saturday. So I've got a lot of Saturday, but I'm out quick on Sunday.
Okay, so what I'll do is I will send you intel about places to eat because there's a lot to do and there's a lot of different nationalities that you can sample. I will send you some history about where Energizer Park is. I will send you stuff on food because St. Louis is a true food diaspora, and I went ahead and broke out that word.
I love that word, and I would love that because I have not been to St. Louis in I don't know how long, so I am not aware at all.
All right. Well, I will send you all of our Cliffs notes when it comes to going to eat and everything there. As always, KCD, it's great to see you. Have a great call. Be safe. Enjoy St. Louis City and Seattle. And thanks for the intel on Atlanta United, especially out of the blocks at 0-2. We will catch up with you again next week. Great to see you, my friend.
Sounds great. Good to see you. Have a good week.
Right. There goes KCD. So KCD is getting ready for her trip to St. Louis. And so KCD's got St. Louis hosting Seattle. And, yeah, we're going to send her, as the other half of the Wonder Twins, we're going to send her all of the information that we have about where to eat, where to go, what to do, history lessons, all those things. Allie Curtis, president of MLS NEXT Pro, coming up with us here in a couple of minutes. And he added that to the business card. In addition to being an executive vice president for Major League Soccer, now he's president for MLS NEXT Pro. We got a lot to get into. We have the IFAB decision to get into about rules that were started in MLS NEXT Pro that we got to see firsthand with our coverage of Atlanta United 2. We have what it's like for him to be in MLS NEXT Pro at this point where you got to add another independent ownership group in Connecticut United, and they come out of the blocks and get a win. There were some comments that he said recently about where he thinks the league can go, meaning MLS NEXT Pro. And there was a number that was really interesting. And so I wanted to pick his brain because, you know, he has seen expansion happen in Major League Soccer, expansion happening now in MLS NEXT Pro, the vetting process. And it's like when you're looking at markets, what are you looking for when it comes to sustainability and footprint and impact and all of those things? Because Connecticut United, their end game is to be in Major League Soccer. So this is like a first step for them in this process. Chattanooga FC, independent. Carolina Core, independent. Something about the southeastern United States and independent ownership groups that are not necessarily tied to Major League Soccer footprints. Because right now, there's only so many spots that are tied to MLS teams. And so when you have this independent ownership that in our conversations that we've had with presidents past in the league, this has been something that's important for them. Trying to sit here and say, okay, we want independent ownership groups to be a part of the growth of this league. And when you have teams coming at it from a bunch of different philosophies, where you have the Baby Bulls do what they did last season with some guy named Michael Bradley as coach. And then everyone looks at him as coach. And for those that don't follow MLS Next Pro, you're looking at it and you're going, okay, he's brought in a 17-year-old and two 16-year-olds in his starting lineup. And everyone is like, ha, 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 ha. And then he in turn goes, ha, 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 back. And had, for the first time in Major League Soccer history, the idea of a 17-year-old, and it was two 16-year-olds and a 17-year-old. I think it's the first time in league history you had 3 players less than the age of 18 that were a part of the growth of a goal. You had the hockey assist, you had the assist, and then you had the goal itself. 3 under the age of 18 competing at Major League Soccer, and first time having that register. And this is very, very cool, where we get to add Mr. President to the stacks. We bring in Allie Curtis here for the final half hour of the morning show. And Mr. President, thank you for coming in this morning here for the morning show. It's great to see you, my friend. Thanks for dropping by.
John, you can call me Ali. But very thanks for having me. Very nice to be on the show this morning.
There were a bunch of different things that I wanted to get into with you, and I guess first and foremost, we'll start with the four initials, the 4 different letters of the English language that got to pull something that you got to see grow from absolute zero. When the IFAB came in, and they were like, "Yeah, we like these ideas," and they now had the AGM, and they're a part of it. What was it like for you as someone who has been in Major League Soccer and seen it grow, and now you're with MLS Next Pro and seeing it grow, to see those rules that were a part of the American footprint added by IFAB? What was that like for MLS and for MLS Next Pro as organizations to see that?
I'm still feeling it out. I'm still trying to, get a sense of how I feel about everything. I mean, of course, there are all the range of emotions of excitement and curiosity and just happiness. I mean, and this is good for the game, in all ways. And I think about, like, when I was a kid, I remember, my coach would tell us, if you guys get in trouble, just pass the ball back to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper would pick it up. You're out of trouble, and then you're off to the races. And so, from my perspective, I've kind of experienced a lot of these things as a player first, and then kind of as a club executive, and now as a league executive, and it all kind of takes a different. And I've got a son that plays the game as well, so it's exciting because. It's really difficult to have that type of impact on the sport, and not just domestically, but globally. And so we're really excited about this from an MLS Next Pro perspective. And we believe in these rules. There's so many things that the game has evolved so much over the last number of years that these rules really address some things that dynamics that have been happening on the fields that are really good for fans. They're good for coaches. They're good for players. It's just good for the sport. And so we're happy that we were able to introduce. It took a long time, but we're really excited about the progress and the rules, and we're excited to see him in the World Cup.
Does your son have your dribbling and shooting skills?
Listen, my son, my kids, just like all of us, we just want our kids to be happy, to grow, to develop. And to be honest with you, like myself included, like it's not so much of what you can do on the soccer field, but it's what the game can teach you, as a human being. And that's what I care about as a parent. And so I love the fact that he loves the game. I love the fact that he's learning and he's growing and developing as a person, because at some point, your body will not allow you to play the game the way you want to play it. And you'll have to have your second career. So it's a beautiful sport. So I feel good about that.
Well, and then because of everything that you got to be a part of with the rule introductions and everything, when you're away from it, and you might be, with your family, just kind of watching casually, Did you ever have those kind of same conversations? Did they bring up the ideas of, why is he wasting time? Why is he doing that? Do you get to have those kind of conversations in a home family environment too, to get that kind of feedback when it comes to laws of the game?
I get that feedback in like every aspect of my life, whether it's at home, whether it's on the youth soccer fields, whether it's at the restaurant, hanging out with my buddies, talking with some of my old former teammates, talking with old coaches, talking with current coaches. It's always, I mean, at the end of the day, we grew up, as fans of the sport, and then we were honored to play it.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful game, and we love the game. And what's really important for us at Next Pro and at MLS is to ensure that we honor that the integrity of the game. And so we set out, and we didn't want to change the game. We just wanted to really kind of make some slight adjustments here and there to really adapt to all the things that have been going on. And we all kind of scream at the television. It doesn't matter the sport, whether you're watching soccer or basketball or football, there's just certain things that have happened. And you're like, why do we keep doing that? What's happening? And it came to a point where you get into a position where you can say, well, let's do something about it. And I thought our process for how we were going to do something about it was really thoughtful. It was thorough. It was collaborative. And I think that resulted in a really good rule. So, or a good couple rules. So yeah, it's all good.
When you look at MLS Next Pro now as president, in addition to being an EVP there at Major League Soccer, do you have to clone yourself now? Then have like the MLS version of you talk about MLS things, and then the Next Pro version of you dealing with Next Pro things. How many hours in the day do you have? Have you found another extra 6 hours in the day to do both now?
I think we all, I listen. I don't pity myself at all. I have an unbelievable opportunity to be involved in the sport and to make it my living. And so I wake up every day with a smile on my face, ready to go. And, we've got an opportunity to really have, impact people's lives. The game impacted my life in a really profound way. And I want to be able to do that for others as well. And this is like, this is a great year for our sport. It's the World Cup. I remember when I was a kid growing up in Michigan, and the World Cup came there in '94, and my friend's dad took me and him to a game, in Detroit. And so the game is amazing, and we're really privileged but like, whether it's soccer or whether it's, we all don't have enough hours in the day. There's enough technology that if we wanted to work more than 24 hours a day, we could. But it's, I think, we are impacting the game in a really profound way. So it's really, you asked, your first question was, how does it feel? It feels special, and that's made up of a lot of different things.
100 days out, and you hadn't given me flashbacks of the Pontiac Silverdome when you mentioned Detroit. Man, that was a surface. That literally is a welcome mat on concrete. MLS Next Pro. We are privileged here at SDH to call the Atlanta United 2 games. And I think it's our 4th year of doing it, because we understand its place, MLS Next Pro's place, when it comes to the greater picture of the soccer footprint here. When you have MLS Next Pro, you're adding another independent ownership group in Connecticut United. They're now a part of this, and that has been a part of the fabric of what MLS Next Pro wanted to do to be different. Have independent ownership groups in addition to the MLS ties, and that's in Chattanooga, it's in Carolina, it's now in Connecticut. When you get to see these independent owners want to sit there and want to dive into the MLS Next Pro pool, what's it like for you as an executive to understand that reach is outside and it's not insular anymore, where outside folks want to come in to be a part of things in Next Pro?
I think it's great for our sport. One of our pillars is where one of our objectives is to grow the game, and there's only a certain amount of MLS markets and MLS clubs that you can have. So this allows us to go outside of the MLS ecosystem, because there's people that love the game that are, throughout the U.S. and Canada. And so having a team in High Point, North Carolina is incredible. Having a team in Chattanooga and Bridgeport, and then, Grand Rapids, Long Island, Jacksonville, Cleveland, and there's more markets that can support professional soccer and be part of the MLS family. So that's, all is super exciting. I was in Cincinnati over the weekend, and I got a chance to watch the FC Cincinnati 2 game versus Connecticut United. And that was their first game. Andre Swanson and Michelle were both the owners of Connecticut United were both at the game. So I watched the game with them. It was a great start to their journey and to being part of our league. So it's fantastic that we can continue to be, not just operate a league, but continue to grow the game, bring new people into our environment, and also just have new markets. So all that stuff I think is good for our sport, and it's coming around at the right time. As I mentioned, it's all connected to not just the game, but we're going to have the World Cup on our soil.
And you mentioned in a previous interview the idea of 50 clubs in MLS Next Pro. That was the number that stuck out to me, and I was like, hey man, look, that would be fantastic to continue to grow the game in that manner. When you look at 50 and you look at people who knock on your door that want to be a part of things in MLS Next Pro, I know that we all want to be good stewards of the game and you want to grow MLS Next Pro. What are you looking for in those markets that knock on your door that, hey, we want to be a part of this? So when you're analyzing who wants to be included, what are you looking for in that ownership group and what they want to do in insert town here to grow the game?
Yeah, so I think that well, we have ambitious plans to grow the league for several reasons. One, we live in a country that where we have tremendous amount of soccer loving folks, and we want to grow and build the game in that regard. When we think about new clubs coming into our league, one of we probably have three main ingredients in terms of that we focus on. The market is important, and you want to make sure that it's a market that can sustain professional soccer. And now that MLS has been around for the last 30 plus years, most markets can sustainably support a professional team. You want to make sure that they have a good home, and that they from a stadium perspective, that they have plans and that they're thoughtful about where they're going to play their games and where they're going to train and those types of things. So the stadium plan is a big aspect of it. And then it might just start and stop, what I would say, at ownership group, which is really a key focus, and ensuring that you're bringing the right people to the table that have the same vision and the same goals as the league. We view this as a really long-term vision and a long-term investment, and we're trying to bring folks that love the sport, that want to grow the sport, and then are going to be engaged in all the decisions of the league in a really profound way. And so ownership group is a key focus of, when we're thinking about bringing teams into the league. And, and just to remark on, whether it's 50 teams or some other number, I think it's good for us to be ambitious, and it's good for us to really, there's some subjectivity to that, but then there's also some objectivity, and it's important for us to think big and to grow and to have goals to achieve. And so we're excited about our growth goals.
Yeah, and you obviously, when you get to do that kind of a thing, you're looking at growing the game and we have sampled this over the last decade where, and you're an ACC person, so you know what things are and how the sport has been growing, especially in the southeastern United States, where you're still fighting stereotypes of, well, this particular geographic part, they're not soccer people. They're not, they haven't, figured it out. They focus on other things. And then it seems like the rest of the country might be pleasantly surprised. It's like, oh, they are soccer people. And then you get to grow it that way. Are you still fighting any kind of stereotypes or misconceptions about growing the game, whether you're talking about Major League Soccer or MLS Next Pro, that you could just, if you could put it to bed and just sit there and go, no, that's not the case? Are you still fighting those kinds of stereotypes even to this day?
I think that, listen, I think a big step in fighting some of those stereotypes are the two rules that were implemented by the IFAB, over the weekend, which is in terms of, soccer players and faking injuries and all those types of things. So I think we always find ways to, but we don't even focus on those, what I would call stereotypes. We try to focus on all the positivity. People love this sport. We love the game. And we focus on, moving forward. And so we've got a league to operate. We've got great owners. We've got tremendous players. And we just have a lot to look forward to, especially, when you think about the World Cup that's going to be here in a few months. And so, I try not to spend too much time thinking about the different stereotypes or just thinking about the past. It really, as a leader, I really try to focus on the now and what's moving forward. And so, we've got a lot in front of us, and that's where all of our attention is.
So then in the now and then moving forward, probably somewhere in that office, in addition to the Herman Award that might be in there somewhere, I'm sure that there is a to-do list. And I ask this of folks in front office positions and coaches and everything. There's got to be a to-do list that you have about focusing on the now and moving forward and continuing to grow things either in MLS NEXT Pro or in Major League Soccer. Where is that to-do list? And it could be on, it could be on one of these old school legal pads like I've got, it could be on, the wire-bound notebook. It could be on one of those long 6-foot by 8-foot dry erase boards that I don't see in your office that's got a bunch of squiggles and different colored lines and everything. Where is that to-do list to continue to think about the now and everything that's good about the game? And what do you think the next thing that you can sit there and check off about, okay, we've accomplished this, let's continue moving forward? Is there something on that list that you can sit there and go, yeah, I want to check this off because we've gotten this as we're focusing on the now and moving forward? Where is that list, and what do you think that next thing is?
Good, really good question. I have all the things that probably you have. I've got stuff in my calendar. I've got stuff in my notebook. I have stuff on the whiteboard. So I have all those traditional ways of trying to stay on top of stuff. And then we have other ways of trying to stay on top. We have working groups. We have committees. I've got board meetings that we need to prepare for. And those are sophisticated ways of trying to stay on top of things. We have staff meetings and team meetings, more than we should have every week. But I really think that, from my perspective, a key to success and really achieving things is having good process. And that process should always be collaborative and with good people. And we've got really good people here working at the league office, and our process is very collaborative. It's highly communicative. And as long as we can really fire and have the right process, then that sets us up for achieving things and puts us in a really good place. So we're not going to achieve everything that we want, but we, set our goals really high to get the things done that we need done. So like I mentioned, and I can't give enough credit to the people that I work with. They're amazing people, both on and off the field.
How many folks are we talking about here that are a part of this collaborative process with you? Is it like 11 billion people that piece things together? How many folks are in this collaborative process to have moments like you did with IFAB over the weekend?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So of course I've got, the folks that are that sit around right next to me around the table. And then we have a broader league office that I rely on. And then even within Next Pro, MLS NEXT Pro, I have a role in MLS, and I oversee MLS Next, I oversee MLS Go. And so we rely on kind of the broader enterprise to help support what we're doing. And then as it pertains to some of those new rules with IFAB, my process there was to think about, the different ways that we might need to evolve the sport to write down on paper different concepts and different ideas. And then, the process that we did, I created an innovation committee. So that was made up of just different GMs and coaches. And I relied heavily on that committee to help, pressure test different ideas and thoughts and things like that. Then I also spoke to officials from Pro, spoke to different federations, spoke to different national team coaches, former players, current coaches. We spoke to medical folks, as particularly as it pertains to the off-field treatment rule, and lawyers and things like that. So we really tried to identify all the different stakeholders where there could have some type of impact on the new rules. And from that process, all of those conversations helped us to align on, or it helped me to finalize what the rule was going to look like and what it was going to be. And so I think that process was really good and it was really helpful. And where we, to get into the right place. And ultimately, we're happy that that it's going to be in the World Cup.
No doubt. Since we're at 100 days, I know that we're all looking forward to that. One more question. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you got to go see Connecticut United's first match at Northern Kentucky University against FCC2. Are you a traveling president in MLS Next Pro? Are you going to markets to kind of see how things are? How outside of the office do you get to go in situations like this?
I think I've always felt that in anything that you do, you've got to be present, physically present, whether it's a parent or whether it's a president, you've got to be there and you've got to really, smell and feel all the, the grass and be close to the clubs in all ways. And so we do a fair bit of traveling. I think last year, I may be the only person I went to the MLS Cup final. I went to the MLS Next Pro Cup final, and I went to the MLS Next finals as well. So we do a fair bit of traveling because it's just important to get to these local communities, and it's fun too because we're based here in New York City, but it's great to get to Northern Kentucky. It's great to get to Chattanooga and to North Carolina and all these different markets. And really, you get to hang out sometimes with different fans, and you see what's happening before the games. You get to watch the games a lot of times right next to some of the fans. And I think that that's really important. It allows you to stay in touch with the sport and the game. I played my entire life and I played professionally, but I don't play anymore. So, it's important that you just stay close to it so that you can be the best version of yourself. And also, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So we have exceptional owners in our league. And so it gives me an opportunity to meet with them and to talk to them in person and those types of things. And then just also, you meet the players and the coaching staff. So it's a lot of fun.
Do you have your Mutiny and your Burn jerseys and your DC United jersey? Are they in frames? Remember your Duke jersey? Are they in frames?
A lot of them are. Yeah, some of them are. You're bringing back old memories now. You miss. We all miss the playing days, but those were good times. We had some really good teams and good teammates, and I still keep in touch with a lot of those former players. Not just. But even so, we've got in MLS Next, I think we have 265 plus clubs. And one of those clubs is my former club. It's a club in Michigan, Livonia, Michigan, called Vardar. And I still keep in touch with my former coach that I had at U11 and U12 and those types of things. And a lot of the players that played on those teams. So, I'm a big believer that in relationships and staying connected to the people that have helped, get you to where you are. So very, very been blessed, and it's going to be a great year.
No doubt. That's very cool to find out about those kinds of things. See, now you're going to have me going down rabbit holes trying to figure out where your Mac is, where your Herman is, where all these things are, where everything's in frames. I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your hyper busy schedule and talking to the MLS Next Pro president clone version of you to talk about things, because I know that the EVP guy's probably in a meeting someplace down the hall and getting everything done. If at any point you now have our garage door opener, you have the keys under the mat, you know where it is. If on a Friday you want to come in and talk about stuff, seriously, all you got to do is hit that link and you're in this space and you can come in and sit there and talk about whatever you want. You can talk Duke Carolina if you want to on a Friday, if you want to sit there and just take a break from something. You now know how to come into our studio. It's all yours. I can't thank you enough for hanging out with us here on a Tuesday early in the week. I can't thank you enough.
Likewise, it goes both ways, John. Appreciate you. Love doing the show, and would love to do it again.
Nice.
So appreciate it.
Sweet. All right, we'll catch up with you soon. Go get some coffee.
Thanks, John.
All right, that's cool. Ali Curtis, the president of MLS Next Pro, EVP at Major League Soccer, and so he got to hang out with us. That's very, very nice. I can't thank Sarah Jameson enough with the MLS office for orchestrating all that, because it literally was, okay, can he do this, 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 and this? Can he go here? Can he go here? Can he go here? But that was cool to talk about everything MLS Next Pro, the fact that he was at Northern Kentucky to see Connecticut United's open, and the idea that, he mentioned 50, and I think that what that does is that helps you out geographically to where you can, you're not spending as much money on travel, because right now in the eastern half of things, you're flying to Providence. If you're Atlanta United, you're flying to Providence. And if you're an independent club, it's that much more of a dependence on the money that you bring in, whether you're talking core, you're talking Chattanooga, you're talking Connecticut. Connecticut's got to come south at some point. Core's got to go north at some point. They got to find a way to get out of GHP and figure out where they're going. But it's been fun to see MLS Next Pro grow to the point to where it is, and to be able to catch up with President Curtis. Very, very cool there this morning here on the morning show. Okay, so we got like 10 minutes, and then we're out and off and running for the rest of the day. So point was made by Ricky about Rodrigo tearing his ACL out for the year, and he's going to miss the World Cup. Yo. That's heavy. That's heavy stuff. But let me say hi to everybody here this morning who is in. Let's see. Disciples X. And so I'd love to learn what the strategies are to market Next Pro and get more fans interested in the young, promising players. I think to get Sam Sarver-like stories. To a certain degree, that's either Disciple SX, which was a format that we used to use in news gathering like 90 years ago, or Disciples X. I think it comes down to folks like us to be in these markets to a certain degree. And for MLS Next Pro, and we've seen it on their social media, we've seen it on their YouTube channel in the past. Michelle Monahan was a part of the discussions in previous years, where you got to see that kind of storytelling on the national level, and they've just got to tell you where these stories are. Hey, we did a really great story on so and so, and direct them in that way. If there's a great feature in a particular town. To be perfectly honest, we need probably to clone ourselves, because what we try to do here on the network with Atlanta United 2 is tell all of those great stories, because they're great athletes that are attached. And we always try to introduce those athletes to the viewing public, and hey, here's what's going on with Atlanta United 2. And with our relationships that we have with Core and with Chattanooga, and traveling to Huntsville and finding out what's going on in the footprint, I think that it's up to us to a certain degree to continue knocking on these doors and saying, okay, hey, I heard about this. Can we tell that story? And it's also up to the clubs themselves to, if the national arm isn't there to tell the story, or if a story pops up, for the local elements, the local storytellers, to share with the rest of us. And so, the Sam Sarver story was great about how he came bursting through Next Pro, and he's now a part of things. And with what we're seeing at North Texas, and the idea of seeing what we've been able to see, the growth there, and our friends at North Texas who can help us out with the storytelling aspect of things too. So I think that it's a couple of different directions. I think that it comes from the league. I think it comes from the local. And I think it comes from those of us that cover the league in general. So I think that we have to be equally vigilant in all of this. The three legs of the tripod kind of thing. So we will continue. I will say this: we will continue to be as vigilant as we can when it comes to catching up with folks like Ali Curtis and finding out what's going on at MLS Next Pro and finding out about all these kinds of great stories and franchises and things like that. But yeah, so I think local acknowledgement leads to stuff like us, and also it would hopefully lead to a national perspective on all of this. So shoot, we'll tell these stories all day long. Disciples, I have no qualm about telling stories like this in our 1v1s, in our time in the shows, when we have them, to be able to have those kinds of moments like that. So we just got to be more. We've just got to keep our head on a swivel, and I need to clone a version of me to sit there and just focus specifically on Next Pro. But no, it was very cool to have Ali Curtis in this morning to talk about things from a Next Pro perspective, from an IFAB perspective, to add those elements to the laws of the game and the consideration and things like that. So, but yeah, you're right on, Disciples, right on. We've got to be just as vigilant as the next person, and so we will try to continue to be as vigilant as we are when it comes to telling these stories. Morning Lokeville, morning Wiley, morning Ricky, morning Derek, morning Abby. Hopefully her wrong order has been rectified with something else. Morning David, morning Derek, and thanks to everybody who has Twitch pitched us this morning. So that's very, very cool to be able to share our experience with all of you. All right, so let's get into what else is going on today. What to watch, excuse me, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. That comes from our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And what that link is important because you get to find things out about what's going on in and around the world and where to watch it with obviously everything at Fanatis. Helps us, helps them, helps you, adding more matches and everything that you're already watching. You get all the B-ins, and I mean all the B-ins. You get all the B-ins. And as a part of that process, it is Tigo Sports is tapped in, CATV gets tapped in, you get all of the AFCON, you get CAF Champions League, you get all the qualifiers, you get the open competitions on the continent, you get the Polish League, the French League, and the Turkish League. That's just BN alone. Then you get Libertadores, Sudamericana. That's also from BN. You get a lot of the A and the B leagues in South America, Paraguay, Uruguay, Colombia, Argentina. The LPF is attached to Fanatis. You get CDO, TVV if you want to add Venezuelan television to your package. So there's plenty to get into with Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. So what to watch today? Well, we will tell you. And it is after what happened yesterday. Today, it is the Taça de Portugal, since I think we're still trying to figure out where we can watch Portuguese Primera. Sporting in Porto, 3:45 on BN. Remember, the Premier League is in the midweek. Wolves and Liverpool is at 3:15. That is also on doubleheader in Liga MX at 8 and 10:10. That is on 2 Universo simulcasting the Premier League. FA Cup, the makeup match, because of the weather conditions at Port Vale the last weekend. Today, 2:45, Port Vale and Bristol City. Coppa Italia, Como and Inter Milan at 3 o'clock. Copa del Rey, Barcelona and Atleti. Big deficit to try to come back from, 3 o'clock. Germany, Dreiliga, 2 matches at 1 o'clock. Netherlands, KNVV Becker, NEC, and PSVs at 2 o'clock. Fox O&E continues with the CONCACAF Championship. 5 matches, 12-1, 3-3, and 7. Fox Soccer Plus has a quadruple header, 12, 3, 6, and 9. Peacock has your 3 matches from 2:30 in the Premier League. VEEX has 3 matches in Liga MX, 8, 10, and 10. Women FIFA World Cup qualifying, Spain and Iceland, CBS Sports Network at 1 o'clock. Golazo has the CONCACAF W Championships at 5 and 6, accessible on Golazo. Suriname, Haiti, Bermuda, and Costa Rica. Once again, brought to you by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. All right, so let's take the tour and see if there are any juice boxes to get into, any other stories to get into before we are out the door today. So juice boxes, 4 matches in the Prem. Bournemouth is a slight favorite at a plus 154 against Brentford at a plus 165. Those of you playing picks of the week, That is game number 1. Leeds. And so Everton is a minus 172 hosting Burnley at a plus 500. Leeds a minus 111 hosting Sunderland at Ellen Road at a plus 340. Wolves, a big dog, at a plus 500 hosting Liverpool at a minus 192. Now, other news and things as we get into the day. Once again, you're looking at Wolves trying to figure out if they can get points against Liverpool to try and not continue to try to be the worst team ever in Premier League history. I think the last win kind of helped them out where they won't be. And Pep Guardiola this morning has said the decision to include Erling Haaland in the squad for tomorrow's meeting with Forest will be taken after training tomorrow. Left out the win at Leeds, sustaining a, quote, little injury. Guardiola choosing not to disclose the exact nature of the problem. It's not a big issue, but not ready for today. Crucial period in title race, traveling to Spain for Real Madrid in the Champions League round of 16. Feels much better. Yesterday, meaning Monday, we didn't train. We'll decide Tuesday. Same with Nico O'Reilly. We'll decide after training. And really, I mean, at this point, why should you say anything? Well, why should you say anything about your big gun? Give them, meaning your opposition, give them something to think about. Give them absolutely something to think about. So that is the larger element in all of this. Don't give the opposition something that they don't have to not think about for like a quadruple negative. A quadruple negative. Always this point of the season, especially when you're in European competition, make sure that you're taking care of business. And if that means lower body injury, upper body injury, it's small, fitness test, what have you, then so be it. So also, did you see this about Felipe Luis? This morning at 5 o'clock, wins 8-0 at Flamengo at Madureira. And so they go to the Carioca Championship final 11-0 on aggregate. Worst start to the season in the last 10 years. Lost Brazilian Super Cup to Corinthians. Fell to Lanús in the Recopa. 11th in Serie A, 4 points in their opening 3 matches. Ivan Polanco, announced by the team, and Diego Linares are also leaving. They made him point to thank the former player and coach for everything he's achieved and shared, wishing him success in his future endeavors. Arrived as a player in 2019. 2 Brazilian League titles, 2 Copa Libertadores before beginning his coaching career in 2024. 64 wins in 101 matches, only 15 losses. He had attracted some interest from European clubs after winning Serie A title, the Copa Libertadores, the Campeonato Carioca, and the Brazil Supercopa. So he got the quad in 25. Everybody was like, hey, do you want to come over here? He's like, nah, I'm staying. And now after an 8-0 win and the rough start, he has been sacked. Sources tell the 4-letter that they are in talks with Portuguese manager Leonardo Jardim to take over. He's been out of a job since Cruzeiro in December. And so, keep an eye on that one. 100 days for the World Cup. That is another crazy marker to think about. 100 days from the World Cup here in this country. It's going to be a great time. So, rumors. Bruno Fernandes planning to discuss his future with United at the end of the season. According to Team Talk, linked with a move to the Saudi Pro. Wants to play in Italy or Spain next. Casemiro has recommended Manchester United should sign Guimaraes as his replacement, according to AS. United reportedly wants to sign up to 3 midfielders this summer. Guimaraes is on the short list. City showing interest in Felix Nemeka out of Borussia Dortmund, according to Sky Germany. And our friend Florian Plettenberg probably reported to dream of playing in the Premier League. City's monitoring the situation. Dortmund reported to be in talks with Nemeka over a new contract with improved terms. Existing deal set to expire in 28. MLS clubs showing interest in Lewandowski. Tell me if you haven't heard that one yet. Fabrizio Romano reported teams are already calling over a move. Future at Barcelona remains open. Has spent nearly 4 years with Barcelona, 115 plus 23 and 179 appearances, 37 years old. Keep an eye on Chicago. Dean Henderson being eyed by Spurs as a replacement for Vicario. However, the report adds that the former Manchester United keeper isn't considering a move away from Crystal Palace. Inter Milan have joined Juve in the race to sign Alisson. That's from La Repubblica. Arsenal, Liverpool, Barcelona closely monitoring a potential move for Bastoni. Inter Milan only likely to entertain offers worth over £78 million or more. Juve willing to listen for offers on Kenan Yildiz in the range of close to €100 million. Premier League clubs eyeing a deal. It's from AS. Manchester City leading the race to sign Lens defender Samson Baidu. Liverpool, Dortmund, Inter Milan tracking. That's from Ekrem Konur. Liverpool monitoring Gerald Kwanzaa while they continue to assess the possibility of a return in the summer. £52.5 million pound clause to re-sign doesn't activate till 27. United interested in Malik Thiaw from Newcastle. Liverpool and Bayern Munich also linked with him as well. Leipzig expecting offers for Jan Diomande in the transfer window exceeding €100 million. Clubs in the Premier League knocking on the door. Liverpool could let Calvin Ramsey leave in the transfer window with the right back an area of focus once again in the summer. Danny Welbeck has triggered a 12-month extension at Brighton, keeping him at the club till 27. That's from the BBC. Sky Switzerland. AC Milan willing to listen to offers for Pervis Estupiñán, who could leave with just 1 year after joining from Brighton. So that's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo on the morning. So that's what you're staring at today on a Tuesday. Apparently, there is a new cap. Barcelona's squad spending limit has risen by almost €100 million. La Liga announced on Tuesday, increasing the chances of being able to invest in the squad in the summer. Real Madrid still have the highest cap at €761 million. Atletico de Madrid third with a limit of €336 million. Villarreal, Athletic Club complete the top five. Levante, Sevilla, and Getafe have the three lowest caps. Levante just under $20 million US, Sevilla at 25, and Getafe at 39. Squad cost limits, which are made public after each transfer window, denote the maximum amount each club is permitted to spend on first-team players, staff, reserve, and youth. Barca's new limit is an increase of €82 million on their cap they had at the start of the season. They remain in excess of their limit. Club resources confirming spending on the squad still over €500 million. So they're over by 30%. League regulations limit them to investing only a percentage of what they raise or save on new recruits. And once again, remember, they are also in an electoral period. They don't have a permanent president. So keep an eye on Barcelona going forward. Okay, tomorrow it is Dylan Butler, busiest man in the Northeast, talking about Major League Soccer. And we are efforting opposition research at 10:30. So that is the rundown there tonight. Once again, remember, boys and girls, 5:30, 7:30, Jefferson and Johnson Gainesville from the dungeon. Drew Dickinson and I will have those calls for you there. And it is tomorrow. It is, once again, it is Dylan, probably opposition research at 10:30. Red Clay Wednesday, we're catching up with Molly McCarty, the girls head coach at Jefferson. It is Dr. Mike Tolmick, the girls coach at Brookwood. And Matt Cheeves, the boys head coach at Dalton, catching up with them during the noon hour on Red Clay Wednesday. Thursday, Chris Doran, play-by-play voice of Columbus Crew, joining us at 9:05. Nino and Nico in the Power Hour at 10 and 10:30. Then it is Utopian Arts Academy at Social Circle. Those are on the network Thursday. Friday, it is our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring, hopefully at 10. Miguel Gallardo from AppleTV is joining us at 10 o'clock. And I've got to end the show probably about 20 minutes early because I have to take the boss someplace. And then later that night, it is Eastside, Walnut Grove and Eastside on the network. That is Friday. And then Saturday, it is Game On, home opener. Going to be great to see everybody. And it's going to be great to start off the 2027 season, 26. Wow. You're already getting to 27. The 26th season at home. It'll be great to see everybody at Mercedes-Benz Stadium as RSL comes to visit on Saturday. So, thanks to everybody who was a part of SOT. I will be posting picks of the week on the Discord coming up in a bit. I'm almost done with the document. And then we'll get everything rolling for the day. Once again, 5:30 tonight, 5:30, 7:30 on the network. High school action here on SDH, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Thanks to Dave Leno for breaking everything down. Thanks to Kacey White for breaking everything down. Thanks to Ali Curtis, the president of MLS NEXT Pro, for hopping on this morning as well to kind of look at everything as the season starts in 26. With all of the stuff that's going on in and around the league and the cool stuff from IFAB that the league got to talk about as well and have been able to talk about for the last couple of days. IFAB and the AGM bringing in rules that were started in MLS NEXT Pro, working forward to get people up and moving. You're subbed out, you got to go. Injury sub, we're going to ask the questions. Can you move? Or you're going to be subbed out. So very, very cool stuff with IFAB, MLS Next Pro, and I can't thank President Curtis for dropping in this morning to discuss things. And we've got to find out where his Herman and his Mac awards are. So that's it for another go round of SDH AM. Thanks for coming by, as you always do. And back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. And we will break it all down for a Wall Pass Wednesday and get you ready. We're going to start our preview stuff, getting ready for Wall Pass, getting ready for the weekend as well. So mucha plati, y'all. Play it safe. See you tonight at Jefferson and Johnson, Gainesville. And since it is the end of the show, that means we get to do this. Back at it again in a little less than 22 hours. 21, 22. A little less than 22 hours, but back at it again for game action, 5:25 tonight. Drew Dickinson and myself, Jefferson and Johnson, Gainesville. Mucha plati, y'all. We'll see you later.